There we go. Is this actually working? Yeah, I guess it's working. Wow. You know, I got freaked out for a minute there because good morning, sawadee kap tukon. Sawadee kap and aloha, everyone. Okay, so let's have a fantastic day. This is Sunday Night Live. If you're on that side of the world, and if you're on this side, it's Monday morning. But and by the way, I won't get into things. Okay, you know, I won't. I can't go there, and I won't. I'll just say I'm not going to go there, right? For those of you who don't. Never mind. I don't want to start out like that. Okay, so anyway, but I do want to start out with something really that I think we all need to. We don't. I don't think we all need to. We all need to pay attention to this. What's going on? Okay. By the way, remember one thing. Really, why is the connection always bad? Okay. Remember one thing very important, and that is we are the elephant. Okay. We are the elephant. How come I don't see? Here we go. New Jersey, mitochondrial dysfunction. What's this one? By the way, I had a shaving accident here. Greetings from I'm happy to hear you. Hello, you all. Sweetie Cup, Sawadee Cup, Catherine, Sarah, Andrea. Cool. Hydrogen peroxide. Yeah. All right, Sheila. I got you. Go to sleep. You know it's late for some of you, so you know don't disrupt your life for this because you can. It's always recorded, you know, and you know. But anyway, so here's the thing. I got. I've got to talk about this because. And oh, by the way, at the risk of. Whoops. What's with this? Come on, this goes up. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And I really don't listen. There's two one-liners that I remember in movies, you know. One is called Run, Forrest, Run. I know you know that line. Okay, well, that's an important line to remember nowadays. Because when a tidal wave is coming at you, and I don't care what you got to hold it back, you just better run, Forrest, run. Okay, and there's some tidal waves coming. On the other hand, we are the elephant, and you don't move elephants uphill that don't want to go uphill. Okay, so forget all that now. And what I wanted to say to you is this. Check this out. There we go. Okay, yeah. So anyway, so a friend of mine told me that this keeps getting a bad connection. Why does it get a bad connection? Excuse me. There we go. Good. Okay, Casey. So anyways, this friend of mine gets this. Now listen, if I offend anyone, that's okay. That's fine. Okay, so the second line that I remember in a movie that I really like a lot is, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Yo, some of you may know that. That was Clark Gable in a really old movie. Most of you won't know that, but frankly, everyone, I just don't give a damn if I offend you because I got to talk to you about something that's really, really beyond disturbing and not okay. And if you're offended, you know, let's think about it. What does it mean to be offended? What it really means is that you don't like what you heard and it makes you mad. So in other words, you don't say something that might make someone mad, because we use the word offended as if it meant something more profound, so more deep, more, I don't know. But it doesn't. It just means you're pissed off. Don't like what I said. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you something. Let me ask you a question, okay? And I want you all to think about this. And a lot of you don't even have to think about it. In fact, most of you guys get it, but there are those that don't. If you found out that, or you saw one of the people down the street was taking animals and mutilating them, how would would you just just brush that off? Huh? I guess you could. So anyway, or I don't know, for example, let's say cutting their genitals off. So we see that, in farmers and people that raise the different animals, they do castrate. Castration is only the medical profession. Only the medical profession has the depth of sorcery to get people to voluntarily get castrated. Yeah. Just like, what? You're saying what? Yeah, what? Well, yeah. Lupron, castration. Okay. Cutting off testicles, removing ovaries, castration. Okay. So that's castration. We volunteer. And we do it because the medical profession gives us a sufficient amount of fear. Now, I realized something, why we still have doctors. Do you know why we still have doctors? I mean, why am I asking such a bizarre question? Because the truth is this: doctors don't make decisions. They don't make decisions. They have to follow the guidelines. And these aren't guidelines, they're instructions. They're not guidelines, they're instructions. And they come down under the umbrella of a professional organization like the American College of Cardiology, American College of Pediatrics, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, American Society of Clinical Oncology. And these are the guidelines that they're not guidelines, they are instructions. And you do it or you're in trouble. Okay, so basically, in other words, there's no really a need any longer for a person to be there, right? You just come in with this, whatever it is, and it fits into a computer, and the AI will direct the next step. Okay, but we have doctors. You know why we have doctors? I think the reason we still have doctors is because they still want us to be under the illusion that we go to a professional, and this professional, in their best interest, examines all the data, talks to you, the person, understands who you are inside, and what it means to you about what you're going through, not some statistical thing, but you. And then make some decisions in your best interest. They want us to. It's the same kind of illusion that they perpetuate with what we call what we used. I don't know if it was ever worked, if it was ever real. I guess at one point it might have been real, but called voting. Familiar with remember that? You guys remember that? Voting meant you go in and you make a choice, right? And then the majority chooses. Yeah, remember? Okay, so anyway, so voting, the reason we vote, and by the way, even before all of the electronic voting machines, before that, they gave you a choice. Do you want a heart attack or a stroke? I chose stroke. I'm taking advantage of my rights as an American, as a whatever, as a Brit. Whatever I am that I'm going to vote, I choose a stroke over the heart attack. That's a choice, right? Okay. Anyway, so the illusion to vote is the same as the illusion that we have doctors that care. Okay. Now, the reason I say that here, this was what my friend wrote to me. This was on the front page news of my computer, followed by a poll asking the public if they think it's ethical to perform gender reassignment surgery on minors. They actually asked that. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to tell you what informed consent reads as. It's the process in which a healthcare provider educates a patient about the risks, benefits, and alternatives of a given procedure or intervention. The patient must be competent to make a voluntary decision about whether to undergo the procedure or intervention. And if we're talking about competence, we're talking about long range. If we're just talking about something like mild, it doesn't matter. But if there's something with long-term consequences, the competency must mean that you have to be able to do that. Now, just a reminder of everybody, a couple of things. I'm going to give this is going to be a little dictionary lesson, just a little bit of vocabulary, just a little bit of comprehension. Okay, so in other words, children up to about the age of 8 are pretty much 7 years old, 8 years old, are pretty much in their brain waves are theta. Theta is the same kind of brain waves you have when you're dreaming. You're just watching. There's no editing. There's no conclusions being drawn. There's nothing. Okay, this is what's going on. All right. All right. So, and then beta starts to creep in, but then we kind of slip into alpha. Alpha is like, super alert and all that, but still we don't have much beta. Beta is what's necessary for making critical thinking. Beta, and beta doesn't come around in full on beta for quite a while, 9-10 years old. All right. Now, and it's not until you're 25 years old, that the frontal lobe of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is actually connected to the rest of the brain. Not until you're 25. And if anybody can remember being a teenager, or if you have teenagers, you'll understand that. They just don't get it. They don't get it. Around 25, 26, 27, they start to get it, right? But prior to that, they just don't get it. And you can't get them to get it. You can't make them get it. Okay? Now, here's the thing I want you to understand. So in Los Angeles, California, a now deleted video, a surgeon going by the name of Dr. Frankenstein, you don't make this stuff up, right? Spoke openly about the drawbacks of performing genital reshaping procedures on transgender children and adults. Did I hear that right? Was that transgender children and adults? Okay. So it appears that the initial video post from last year was removed, but it was then found in the archives and put all over the place. The operations were described by the viewers as, quote, evil, not really evil, just in quotation, and as being similar to Nazi-era experimentation. Yeah, Mengele, Mengele has nothing on what's he and these guys are the same. They're the same. Mengele was a freak. Right. But we knew that. We agreed that he was a freak. But this guy here is Dr. Peters is considered, what is he? He's an esteemed professor at the Oregon Health and Science University, plastic and reconstructive surgery. Anyway, so he uses the pronouns he and they. Now, I'm not sure. That's really sad if someone's got to tell someone their pronouns. Anyway, that's pretty sick. Are we talking about possessive pronouns? Like mine? Hers? His? I guess so, yeah. Theirs? Ours? Anybody, can I get this straight? Help me out. Can anybody say ours? Yeah, Gone with the Wind. Thank you. Can we say ours or no? We can't say it's ours. We have to say it's his. Right. Anyway, so here's a doctor, an esteemed. I think he needs to be steamed. I think we should put him in a pot with a steamer and steam this guy. Yeah, I think that's the best thing for him. Make him truly and truly esteemed. Now, he was one of the first 2 fellows in the Gender Affirming Surgery Fellowship, fellowship, at Oregon Health and Science University. Oh, did I make you upset, Oregon? Oh my gosh, am I happy? Oh, frankly, I don't give a damn. Okay. Now, gender affirming. Now, let me just get this straight. Let me just help you out. Okay. Those of you who didn't take biology, I get it. It's okay. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Now, what is it that God bestowed upon all creatures? What is the imperative placed upon all creatures by God? Regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. Regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. Regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. I.e., go forth and multiply. Okay, that's what we do. So you cut yourself, regenerates. Okay, so all biological creatures are doing one of two things, usually. Either surviving by eating, obtaining energy and nutrients, and the second one is procreation, having babies or having sex to have babies. Two main functions of biological entities. This is not like up for debate, okay? This kind of stuff is not up for debate. It's like debating whether or not gravity exists. I mean, some people are telling me it's not gravity. It doesn't. Well, I don't even know what people are talking about anymore. And you know what? I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And I'm not going to go into and hear the explanation of why men can get pregnant. Listen, there's some really serious stuff going on, not this. Okay. Anyway, so let me just tell you about something. So anyway, so I want to familiarize you with a couple terms. One is called genotype and the other is called phenotype. Okay. So the genotype means your genes. Are you XX or XY? And actually, there's a variation on that. You can have what's called Klinefelter syndrome, which is XXY. What is it? What about one in 1,000 men, boys born, have Klinefelters with this XXY. And anyway, so with the Klinefelters, they have. By the way, there's not a higher percentage of them that are their sexual preference is homosexuality. Not a higher percentage. Okay, so even though they may have small penises, small testicles, be unable to actually have children, or they may not. They may be okay. Because remember, I'm not going to go into it, but there's homozygous and heterozygous. But that has for when it talks about other traits. But when we're talking about sexual characteristics, it's different. Anyway, so genotype and phenotype. So the genotype is something you were born with, period. Done. It's done. Now, genotype, gene, genetic. Okay, get it? Okay, whatever. I hope you get it. Anyway, that's something you're born with. Now, phenotype is your observable characteristics. Okay, so the phenotype. So we talk about that in biology and in cancer a lot, or in chronically fermenting cells. They talk about for the chronically fermenting cell phenotype, this has to happen, blah, 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 blah. You change your genetic expression and you can modify the phenotype and all that. Anyway, so now there are situations too where the Y, because there's only X and Y chromosome. That's it. I've got about blah, 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 blah. There's not a Z chromosome or a W chromosome or a P chromosome. Yeah, there's just X and Y. It's just the way it was. I don't know. I want you all who have a problem with this concept to talk to the only non-binary being in the universe, God. All right. Everything else is binary, right? Up is down, front and back, yes and no, black and white. It's a binary. I mean, computers. What you're looking at right now, ask any IT dude, do this. And you'll find out that it's all binary. It's either on or off, on or off, on or off. The phenomenal universe is binary. Period, exclamation point, period, exclamation point. Now, so there's no such thing as affirming gender. Gender is, what it is. So if you want to do it, do a swab. Do a swab on the inside of the thing, and then do a genetic test and see if you're confused. you might be confused by the phenotype. Okay. So what they're doing is they're changing the phenotype. And when you surgically like cut off something, or like when Jeffrey Dahmer did this, what did we call it? It was not cool, right? We can agree that, right? Could agree that Jeffrey Dahmer was kind of a freak, huh? Anyway, he'll kind of a freak. Call that mutilation. He mutilated people, put them in the refrigerator. I think he ate them. All kind of sounds sickly familiar. But anyway, even plants, when it goes down to plants, I got to tell you something. Even plants have what they call inconsistent males. That means some of them fruit and some of them don't fruit, because they have two different sets. But it's like each flower, or it's fair. But these things, they don't procreate. They don't really procreate, and for a reason. They found out why it doesn't is because when they have recombinant weird things happen between the X and the Y chromosomes, they wind up with maladaptive and unable to procreate. So it doesn't work. So basically we're stuck with X and Y. So you don't change gender. You don't change genotype. You change phenotype. You can change phenotype. You can have surgical operations and change phenotype, but you haven't changed gender. So if we're going to be bizarre and weird and sick, let's at least try to use the right language. Okay, can we try to use the right language? Remember, genetic manipulation. A linguistic manipulation. So anyway, here's the thing: a child, if you want to do something to your body, that's okay, do it. But like a child doesn't even know yet. Remember, not until now, they're talking about 5-year-old gender reassignment. They have never, they're not even in theta yet. Not even in alpha yet. They're still kind of, they're just dreaming. Life is a dream. That's a great song. I don't know if you guys won't know it. It's way back when. What a great song. But anyway, like, 5, 6, 7, it's like being in a dream. A dream is similar to a phase in meditation, when you're meditating, where you're just watching your thoughts, but you're not grabbing them, you're not contemplating, they're just going. Well, children are just taking a video photograph. They're videographers, and they're collecting data, and it all goes into the subconscious. But they're not yet able to make these decisions. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, there's Klinefelter's, which is XXY. But anyway, so now the next, okay, let me get into the questions though. Yeah, T-Rex, that's it. So if we have gender assigning reassignment, can we do species reassignment? Okay, I don't think, why not, right? Because there are, I've heard of the phenomenon of furries. So perhaps we can have a species reaffirming surgeries. All right, there you go. Come on, Dr. What's your name? Peters? Yeah. Go beyond, man. Don't just stick with this. Go beyond, dude. Come on. Let's see you turn a little girl into a male dog, or not a male horse. Come on, man. Come on. Hey. By the way, I speak fluent sarcasm, so sorry. Now, one of the questions I had, and it was a really good question, and it was from someone I know who said wanted to know the difference between EBOO and 10-pass ozone, and a lot of you may want to know the difference of it. So I can't read your stuff, otherwise I get totally confused. Anyway, so the difference between EBOO and 10-pass. So okay, those are good questions because those have become very popular. So basically, originally, we're talking about ozone therapy, right? And so originally there was a direct ozone injection, right? And you can't go past about 20 per second, because otherwise per minute, because otherwise you get like a gas embolus. So you have to do it very slowly. But and someone who's really, really good at it, but still the volume of that you get, actually, because they keep circulating, your blood circulates so quickly. So it's actually a really good method of doing it. But you're limited because of the gas. And then the other one is called major autohemotherapy. You've all heard of that. Major autohemo. And that's where they take out about 200 or 250 cc's of blood into a vacutainer. Usually, in the old days, I don't know what they're doing now, but I hope, anyway, the glass vacutainer, right? Because ozone's pretty sharp stuff, pretty oxidative. Anyway, so you put it in the glass container, so 200 cc's, and you put an equal amount of ozone, anywhere from 40 up to 50, 60 micrograms per milliliter. And then you gently move it like this. You gently shake it. You don't do it quickly, because ozone is like very, very reactive. So you gently do that, and you'll notice it turns a really bright red, and that's because 2O3s, which are ozone, O3, become 3 O2s. In other words, oxygen. So you increase the oxygenation, so it's a lot redder. Okay. So anyway, so that's the old major autohemo. And then there was minor autohemo. I'm not sure if you've all heard of minor autohemo, but we do that. We should be doing it still at my center. When I talk about my center right now, I'm talking about Arizona, because we don't have one yet in Thailand. We're working on it. Real seriously, it's actually happening. It's not just a fantasy. It's happening. Thanks to some wonderful people that I've met. But minor autohemo is a very interesting thing. You take out some blood, you draw out, let's say, 5 cc's of blood out of the arm or port. And then you add in 5 cc's of ozone at, let's say, 40 gamma. And you put it into like a big, either a 10 cc syringe or bigger, and shake it vigorously, which you never do, because you don't want to break up and everything. But in this case, you want to break up all the cells and break up if there's any chronically fermenting cells, you want to break them up so that there are just fragments of them all over the place. And this piece and that piece and an inside piece that you would never have seen, et cetera, et cetera. It's just kind of all scrambled up there. Then you give it as a shot, intramuscular shot into the butt or the arm, usually the butt. What happens is the body says, oh my God, there's something's invading us, and there's an inflammatory response. That means all the macrophages and all the natural killer cells, everybody shows up, for the situation, and develops an immune response, takes that information to the lymph node and develops an immune response. That's really good. So you do this about every 3 to 4 days, and you keep the immune system alert, aware of what's going on, right? Okay, because remember, one of the things chronically fermenting cells learn how to do very well is to disguise themselves and to kind of like cause the immune cells to be distracted. And they actually, unfortunately, in the tumor microenvironment, what we're seeing is that these cells are actually turning. So macrophages are now becoming tumor-associated macrophages, and they're actually helping the tumor grow and things like that. So anyway, so by continually reminding the immune system that what's going on is what we call minor autohemo. Okay, so there's major autohemo, minor autohemo, and there's direct gas, and then there became 10 pass, and then there became EBOO. So 10 pass is done under hyperbaric conditions. Hyperbaric, and usually about 2 atmospheres. And so as the blood's drawn, now they heparinize it, but they don't have to use as much heparin. You see, when you do the major autohemo, you take only 200 cc's of blood out, right? But you got to put a lot of heparin in there. Heparin is something to make the blood not clot, because you want it to not clot. Otherwise, you can't get it back in. Okay, so if you wanted to do more than 250, you'd have to do, by the time you're on your second or third one, you'd have too much heparin going in the body and you'd start bleeding. So you can't do that. So that's why they had, so they came up with hyperbaric. If you keep high pressure, 2 atmospheres of the, drawing it out and pushing it in, you can do it with the same amount of heparin, right? And you can do it. It prevents the, so you can go up to 10 passes, right? But again, it's still, when we looked at the overall effects, I mean, although amazing, it's just the volume was not enough. So then I think it was it 19, when was it? Early 2000s, they came up with EBOO. Let me see here. Right. So maximum delivery. So EBOO, which basically stands for extracorporeal. So that all that means, okay, don't freak. That's an easy word. Extra means outside of. Corporeal stands for corpus. Corpus is the Latin word for body, right? Well, that's where we get the word corpse from. So extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation, right? EBOO, EBOO. That's all it means, okay? So in other words, what does that mean? Extracorporeal. That means blood is taken out, and outside of the body, it mixes with ozone and oxygen. And it's usually 0.5 to 1 ratio. It mixes, and then all that mixing takes place, and then it goes back into this arm. Well, it turns out you can do like 4,800 milliliters, which is about 5 liters of blood in an hour, which means you've basically ozonated the entire blood system. We have about 5 liters. That's about our average amount of blood, depending, depends if you're, basketball players, I'm sure, have a little more than 5 liters, and then some other people have less. But the point is this, that that's pretty good. So you can basically do it all with the EBOO. Now, one of the other things that EBOO, the new EBOO machines are doing, is they're using filters, micrometer filters. So, and what they're finding, unfortunately, sadly, tragically, in people who unfortunately let fear, didn't have a strong enough core of knowledge, I guess, to fend off the fear. Because you see, the fear that they use, the Rockefellers and those guys, the fear that they use is so powerful that it's basically produces what we would have to refer to as a psychological frontal lobotomy, where your prefrontal cortex is no longer communicating too well with your mid and hindbrain. Yeah. And so then you're operating out of fear. Anyway, so out of fear, people have been getting these certain injections, which we don't need to mention, but as of one of the problems we're seeing are these large blood clots. So the nice thing about the EBOO is that if it's got a micrometer filter, it'll pick them up. It'll grab them and take them out, and you can see them, and they're big, and they're terrible, and you certainly don't need them. So yeah, right. So I mean, yeah, someone here is talking about, and they also added ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is very, very good too, and you can do that. We happen to have at our center in Arizona one of the originals, not machines, and for ultraviolet blood irradiation. Very, very amazing stuff. Very, very amazing. I got to tell you guys something about ultraviolet blood irradiation, just in case you don't know. It's very, very important. And that is this. There was a Dr. George Miley back in 1936. He was at Hahnemann Hospital in Philadelphia, and he was an obstetrical surgeon. And So he had one of the original NOT machines, which is ultraviolet blood irradiation. Basically, they take the blood out, they expose it to ultraviolet light and put it back in. That's all just light. Okay. But the light activates all sorts of things. And, and again, I want you to think about it. Think about this. This is very, should be thought provoking. Okay. And that is this: the hemoglobin, which is the structure, which is the protein where the iron is that holds the oxygen. The hemoglobin molecule is the same as chlorophyll. And as you all know, chlorophyll is what plants have, and that's how they take the sunlight and they actually can use that energy to produce carbohydrates and amino acids and fats and all the stuff that they do, plus oxygen and all that sort of stuff. So that's really, really kind of thought-provoking. Why would our blood have the same kind of molecular structure that would be receptive, that would grab light? In other words, they call it photoreceptive in chemistry. Why would they have that would grab light? Why would our blood have that? So anyway, that's not a question that I'm about to answer. That I can answer. I can make some assumptions that perhaps we can live on only light if we were more evolved, spiritually evolved. I don't know what it really means, but I just know that God made no whipped cream. God didn't make whipped cream. He didn't make things. What has not been made except by humans are things that are not useful. Okay, everything in nature has multiple precise functions. That's it. Nature is highly functional, and it operates under the law of necessity. And that's what it does, right? Okay, so for some reason our hemoglobin is a photoreceptive molecule. Anyway, so when that happens with the ultraviolet light, it actually brings in a lot of energy, stimulates a lot of processes, and it's amazing. So what Dr. George Miley was able to do as a surgeon, and by the way, he published this in the American Journal of Surgery in 1941, so he was taking up women who had obstetrical surgeries, or probably maybe they had I don't know if they had C-sections, or I think some of them had C-sections. The other ones had just how obstetricians, unlike midwives. So midwives are beautiful. They hold it down. When a woman's giving birth, they'll hold it down and they'll stretch it and they'll work with it until the baby can come out. The obstetricians, I know because I did that at the beginning, are taught to cut, and then you sew it up later. It's an extra procedure, right? It's called an episiotomy. We got a name for it. Okay, so they sew it up. You don't have to do that. But anyway, what was I talking about? Anyway, let me get back to ozone. Let me get back to George Miley. So, what he did was with the obstetrics is that if bacteria got into the blood and they got a condition called sepsis, and normally you would have to use high doses of antibiotics, which they didn't have in those days. They didn't have it. In fact, I think it was 1942, was it, that penicillin came out, like the year after that publication in the American Journal of Surgery. And anyway, so he would take women who had he had three classes of women. One were they had just positive blood cultures, but they weren't really sick yet. The second group, moderately, had positive blood cultures. In other words, there were bacteria in the blood, and they were really sick. And then the third were what they called moribund in those days. I think today we would call it septic shock. Okay, so he had three groups, and he found in the data that he reported, he did this study from 1931 through, 36 through 40, like 1940, like a 4 or 5 year study, and then he published the results, peer reviewed, right? Now, what he found was that all of the ones that had mild, they were just bacterial positive blood, 100% gone, healthy, resolved. Those who had moderate, in other words, they had positive blood cultures and they were really sick, 100%. I'm not making it up. The third, what they called moribund or septic shock, only 45%, but that's the same as we get today in our ICUs with all of our special stuff. And why is that? Because it's no longer just the bacteria in the blood. If you have a certain kind of bacteria called gram-negative bacteria, which are ones that you're going to run into when you have problems down in that area of the body. Gram-negatives are, for example, E. coli and those kinds that are in the bowel. And there's a lot of exchange. Anyway, gram-negative bacteria can produce what are called endotoxins. So it's a toxin that gets released, and these toxins cause what's called shock, where they cause the arteries and the vessels, and the blood vessels, to just dilate, so the blood can't circulate, and you go into shock. So you're no longer dealing with just these organisms and the immune system. It's no longer an immune system. It's an adaptive physiological response. It's completely different. Okay, but so that's UBI. So UBI is very important. Ultraviolet blood irradiation, amazing stuff. And now what they have, most of the machines they have, so whoever was writing that, most of the machines they have they're usually either ultraviolet A, B, or A or C, right? A is usually for chronically fermenting cells. C is usually for infectious, like bacteria, so like that. The B you want to avoid, but they say you want to avoid. However, the original NOT machine had a full spectrum. And now they're doing, again, I was at an Ozone conference recently, and they're using UBI as well, and they're all doing that. So now the EBOO machines have not only the filter, the ozone, and the ultraviolet light. So these are like amazing machines. Anyway, they're all really fantastic. But I would say EBOO, if you had a choice, do the EBOO, because if you do that once a week, imagine once a week, you're going to have your entire blood ozonated. Now, yeah. So why is that so important? Well, ozone, one of the, so basically EBOO is dialysis, right? Takes your blood out, does something over here, and goes back in. When ozone is a highly reactive a molecule, okay, O3. So when it goes into the blood, now the blood, remember, is 55% plasma and about 45% cells. Most of those cells are red blood cells, some are white blood cells. But the plasma means the non-cellular portion of the blood, which is just the liquid portion of the blood, right? So when it gets into there, it produces what are called reactive oxygen species, right? Lots of ROS, reactive free radicals. They don't last very long. They don't last very long because of the antioxidant potential of in our blood, of what we have going around in our blood, right? And yeah. So now, however, there's albumin and there's other kinds of glycoproteins and lipoproteins and lipids, fats that can be that get oxidized. And when you oxidize a fat, you get lipid oxidation products. And lipid oxidation products, unlike oxygen, which are free radicals, take a long time to be neutralized, like a few minutes. That's why smoking a cigarette is actually a safer thing to do than eating fried French fries, right? Because French fries is going to produce peroxidized lipid oxidation products, which last for minutes. The person who takes a puff off a cigarette is going to get perhaps 2 million, 20 million, 10 million, I don't know, free radicals in their blood that within a second or a maximum 1 second are neutralized. But they keep puffing. I'm not advocating smoking by any means. They keep puffing, so they're going to really, really overdo their ability to do that. But what I'm saying is that the French fries, you eat a whole bunch of French fries and let's say a fried chicken or a burger or whatever thing. When you eat fried fat, you're going to wind up with these they call them LOPs, lipid oxidation products, which are really, really dangerous. Well, what they find with ozone is that ozone causes the reactive oxygen species in the blood, but they also cause the production of what are called lipid oxidation products. And there's a way to test it. It's called T-bars, thiobutyric acid reductant. So anyway, you don't need to know those words, but anyway, it's a way of looking at the oxidative stress that a system is under, a biological system is under. And you can compare the T-bars to the thiols. Thiols are like glutathione, things like that, okay? So what happens is that goes way up and this goes way down, right? So in other words, after this treatment. Okay, so what does that do? What do these T-bars do? What do these reactive lipids do? They then go to and they can get into they produce something called selenic acid, and then blah 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 blah, and other compounds that go into cells and stimulate NRF2. Now NRF2, you may know, is a transcription factor. You may not know, but anyway, it stimulates NRF2, which then in transcription, meaning genes, then goes in and it upregulates and turns on over 220 genes that are involved in antioxidants, called ARE, antioxidant, whatever it's called. Anyway, antioxidant system. So it turns on our own bodies, our own cellular capability of antioxidation. Okay, so now we are highly, highly, highly antioxidant. Why is that important? Because all of these chronic conditions that we talk about, whether it's chronically fermenting cells or arthritis or cardiac conditions or blood sugar problems or all these high blood pressure, all these chronically things are helped. We start to knock down that chronic inflammation. This is why ozone is so important for not only for chronically fermenting cells, but anything else that's chronic. Okay, very, very important stuff. Now, I noticed a big drop off here of people. So I guess I was offensive. But now remember, I was talking about reassigning gender. I'm just trying to let y'all know that you can't reassign gender because it's unreassignable unless you went to every of the 100 trillion cells in the body and went in there and what would you do? Take out a Y and put in a whatever? I don't know what you'd do. I don't think it's possible. Anyway, so, hey, it's okay. It's okay. I don't think it's cool with children. I think it's wonderful. What any adult wants to do to themselves, do it. Do it. Don't do it to others. Just do to yourself. And give the kids a chance to grow up and make their own minds up. Yeah. Okay, so let me see. So I talked to you about the T-bars, right? Thiobutyric acid reactive substances, right? Which are blah, 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 blah. So, okay. Anyway. So all of that happens within 5 to 7 minutes of starting getting the ozone therapies. So the only difference between getting like the major autohemo and getting the 10 pass, again, is the amount of blood that will actually get ozonated. So with the 10 pass, you'll get like 10 times the amount, which is crazy. But the EBOO is like 14 times more than the 10 pass. So, and the other thing is it's actually safer because what it's doing is when it's outside the body and the blood and the oxygen and the ozone are mixing, they're mixing it at much lower concentrations because there was a guy, let me see, do I have the book here? Yeah, here it is. Look, here you guys. See this book? In Europe, they say that they thought the ozone therapies were considered normal. Only in America is it quackery, right? Wah, 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 wah. Okay, wah, wah. Proud to be a wah, wah. By the way, if you're not on Quack Watch, you didn't make it. You got to be on Quack Watch. That is a credential. So anyway, Bacci. This was written by a doctor by the name of Velio Bacci. Okay, now what Bacci found out, one of the great Italian researchers in ozone, is that at about 70 micrograms, per milliliter of ozone, you start to hemolyze red blood cells. In other words, red blood cells start to break down. So you don't want to really go above that. Okay, so you want to stay below that. Well, it turns out that the EBOO, 10 pass and all that can get up close, maybe 60 or so, and maybe if you jump up into the 70s, you might get some hemolysis. But the EBOO is way down, like half that amount. So it's the safest because it's going in smaller amounts at higher frequency outside the body. It's fantastic. So it's really like the latest and greatest. And, I can't imagine getting better. Getting better. Now, by the way, when I told you that it turns on it turns on the NRF2's transcription factors, tell the ARE gene system to turn on genes. What do they turn on? Superoxide dismutase, glutathione, S-transferase, glutathione peroxidase. All of the antioxidant systems. All of the antioxidant systems, which are critically important. Okay, so that's ozone. Yeah, so ozone's pretty fantastic, and I would recommend if you have access, to an EBOO machine, or do it. And if you've got a chronically fermenting cell problem, do it. Catherine, but do you pay for those signaling molecules? Okay, they're talking about ASEA, ASEA. You all know about that, redox signaling molecules, right? Now, I have to admit I have not looked into those deeply enough, but from everything I see with the ASEA, it looks pretty amazing. It's a liquid you drink. I've still got to understand it. I don't quite understand it, so it's going to be hard for me, and I will do it. I will look into ASEA. I have to, because I have a dear friend in Australia who really wants me to look into it, and I've seen enough anecdotal stories of people doing extremely well from drinking this liquid, ASEA, ASEA. And what it's supposed to be is redox. It tastes like, it's weird. It almost tastes like a mildly chlorinated water. So it's not really, I don't like it. But it's, it's not, that's not what it is. How about Klebsiella? It doesn't matter what it is. They're all gone. Now, but the ASEA is it's actually unfortunately expensive, and if you've got a really chronically fermenting condition, you want to drink 1 bottle a day, and so it could be expensive. But the point is, if it is what they say it is, it would be worth it if it does. But here's the thing: you've got the redox signaling molecules. But you've got it. It's also like you all have heard of, you probably, if you go to any kind of practitioner, you've heard of NAD plus, right? You can get injections of NAD plus. That is very good. And especially the older you get, because you're making less NAD plus. Now, NAD plus is the oxidized form of the reduced form of NAD, which is very, very important because it's got molecules to give, right? But the problem is it was very, very difficult to actually put into in a condition where you can actually administer it to someone and it's not going to react before it gets to where you want it to get to, or that it's going to react, or is hard to keep it stable, right? Yeah, I'm just reading here. Someone says ozone is expensive, $260 per 30 minutes. I know. I don't know why they have to do that. Why do they have to do that? Why? It's all expensive to get these therapies. I know that. And what I'm going to make sure we do is that, here in Thailand is that if you know some equipment that we've paid for, it's already paid for. Okay, so it doesn't, you know, the investment doesn't have to come back right away. And I've got some wonderful, wonderful people I'm working with who agree with me. It's really beautiful. I have the most wonderful investors in the world. The first investors I've ever met who said, "We just want your dream to come true." And my dream is to help people. You know, it's just weird dream, but and anyway, so they said that's all. You know, these and then. They said we don't want to go too much negative, but I mean, can you imagine investors saying this? So we're going to be able to keep it down. So I think that these kinds of things. So if you've paid a lot, here $350 for an ozone. So if you've paid a lot, like if it's something that where they're using, like if they're giving a special kind of IV with something in it that costs a lot of money, you can't really reduce it, but you don't want to start. You know, you can't. You got to make enough money to pay your nurses and to pay everybody. You got to be able to do that. But the profit margins don't need to be high, you know, so that everybody comes to you and you're making this much profit on each person, but you got all these people, so you're making a lot of money and you're still okay. They're okay. Everybody's okay, right? We don't have to think the other way around. You know what really blows my mind is that when things are in shortage, the price goes up. What the heck? What are people thinking? It's in shortage or yeah, I don't. Anyway, very difficult. Greed is just I don't understand it. I truly don't understand it. I don't know how you could not have enough. If you have enough, if you're lit, you know, I'm eating. I got a place to live. I got enough. I got enough. I have enough around me. I'm okay. But this guy's not. He's not okay, or she's not okay. So I'm not okay if they're not okay. I got to be. If they're not okay, how can I be okay? Unless I pretend like they don't exist. Anyway, so anyway, I go off on these things, but I don't know how not to. Anyway, the oxidative stress of ozone causes the body to become extremely powerfully antioxidant. Plus, you increase the oxygenation of the blood, right? That's another great thing you do. So it's really good. And it turns out there was a great study done way back. When was it? I thought I saw that somewhere, where they were looking at people with peripheral artery diseases. And now this goes right along with those of you who might be experiencing paresthesias from having had certain kinds of chemotherapeutic drugs, right? You've got like a numbness and tingling and that kind of thing going on like that. Okay, the ozone will help that. Yeah, it will help that. It goes in there and you can actually reawaken those endothelial cells, the cells that line the small all blood vessels. The other thing to remember is one of the greatest ways to rejuvenate the endothelial system, which are the cells that line the blood vessels. One of the greatest ways is is fasting. Beta hydroxybutyrate, which is one of the main ketone bodies in the breakdown of fat, stimulates endothelial growth and proliferation, right? And that's a whole other topic, which is really important. So fasting, ozone, it all turns out to be the same. There's never a different answer, it turns out. And no matter how many times we get asked, it's the same old question. Where is it now? Okay, now where are my questions? Where are the questions? Hey, there we go. Cool. Got him. All right. Whoop. Lost them. All right. Got him. Okay. So here, if we, here's a question. Is there any detox we can do to protect us from cancer? What's your detox center? Huh. Well, of course, all of us need to detoxify because we accumulate toxins. In fact, all conditions, including aging, are a result of accumulated toxins. Okay, so accumulated toxins over time will do that. They'll finally affect the endocrine organs, which then means hormones go down and you get into old age, or you get into aging, not old age. You can be old. You can be old and vibrant and healthy, right? But anyway, so detox. So it's good. I would just say if you're otherwise healthy, I would say 4 times a year, do 10 days of a water fast if you could, or at least do 10 days of a juice cleanse, fresh juice, very just enough apple or whatever to sweeten it to make it so that it is tasty, because you want it to taste delicious, but don't make it too sweet. Okay, don't make it too sweet. 10 days a week. Do it at the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes. Yeah, do that minimum, and then eat less. Eat in a 6-hour window so that you don't eat for 18 hours and stop eating 4 to 5 hours before bed. And if you do that, it's fantastic. And then if you skipped 1 day a week, yeah. And if you're eating really, really, really nutrient dense food, you don't have to worry about it. And remember something, you don't have to get every nutrient every day. So you can just say, today I'm going to eat a lot of extra chia, extra avocado, and then next day I'm going to, whatever. It's not that you're not going to eat them. Try to eat a little bit every day of everything if you can, but you don't have to. Don't get so worried about it. Okay. Just make sure that over the week, you got it all 1,000-fold, and you will. You can. Okay. Now, anyone on Herceptin and Perjeta still go for alternative treatments? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No reason why you can't. And you'll find that you probably won't need them anymore after a while. Does the Stop Making Cancer course give ideas for supplements? I don't really remember. And if not, I'm going to go check it. And if not, I'm going to put it in there. Okay. So yeah, I will make sure. Thank you for asking me and reminding me that. Okay, recommended fasting time frame during chemo is 24 hours before and during treatment, 48 hours enough. Yeah, and then also, you remember, this is all, if you want to read about it, you guys go, Professor Longo, he was originally at USC. I don't know if he's still there, University of Southern California. Yeah, but that's what he was doing before, during, and then after. But I think he was more focused on during and after a couple days. But the before is very important, because if you're fasting 24 hours before you get a chemo, especially if you're doing maximum tolerated doses, if you're fasting before that, then you got to remember something. What's happening is your healthy cells are getting stronger because they're saying, oh no, there's no food. So they really ramp up their strength and they start doing that thing. And the chronically fermenting cells are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's it. It's a good deal. It's a good deal. What I do to avoid taking aromatase inhibitors? Okay, now aromatase inhibitors, as you all may know, are there are cells in our body that produce an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase changes, it's an enzyme that changes androgens, which are male hormones, into estrogen. So testosterone into estrogen. Androstenedione into estrone and things like that. Yeah. So the aromatase inhibitors prevent that. Now, if you're on that because you are estrogen receptor positive, they don't, for some reason they're only measuring it in breasts and sometimes ovary, but they should measure it in pancreas, lung, colon, prostate, because they're all have estrogen receptors. And fortunately, they have beta receptors too, which do some good, which shrink. So we've talked about that before. But anyway, one of the problems, if you are a a woman who's gone through menopause, whether it's surgical uh, or natural, your even the adrenal glands are not making estrogens anymore. The adrenal, because of course the ovaries are not, but the adrenal glands are making the androgens, and the androgens travel to and get modified in the fat cells. So even if you're not an overweight woman and you're postmenopausal and you still have breasts, if you still have breasts, um, then the fat in the breasts will convert the androgens into estrogens. And they've even found that you can have higher amounts of estrogen in the breast than you do in the blood. So that's uh, uh, yeah. So in those cases, so what I recommend absolutely is eat a ton of soy and flax, because those will bind to the beta and bind to the alpha mildly enough to block it. So it's really, really, really effective. But in addition, if you're on an aromatase inhibitor, I know the side effects are terrible and all that, so maybe just decrease it. So instead of, usually it's like 1 mil, like of the Arimidex, it's usually like 1 milligram a day, right, every day. So go to 1 milligram 3 times a day, or half a milligram 5 times a day, or something like that, or just go way, way down, or 1 milligram 3 times a few times a day, 3 times a week. 1 milligram 3 times a week. Just decrease it and eat lots of soy, stuff like that, because you just want to keep those down for a while. Once your body has changed, remember, it takes a little over a year for us to have a whole new body. So once we have a whole new body, then we can treat ourselves differently. Yeah. Okay. So now, are we still being? Is everything okay here, you guys? Yeah. Yeah. After 16 chemos, mind you, and I still have my hair and go to the gym the day after. Yay. Right on. Flax and chia every morning. Yay, Michael. Cool. Okay, what causes night sweats? Anyway, uh, it depends. But remember, sweating or fever is good. It's always a way to activate the immune system. You want to activate the immune system because there are so many things in the world that are suppressing the immune system. So anything you can do to activate it is good. That's why saunas are great. That's why one of the trillion benefits of exercise. But I mean, yeah. So yeah. But so if you're getting night sweats, that means your body is right now going through something where it needs to um, activate the immune system. So praise the Lord. So yeah, whole new body, right? Think about that. Why do I say that? Why would I say such an outrageous thing? This guy's crazy. Where did he go to medical school? My God, what? Well, get online and find out how many new cells we're making per second. Well, I mean, a lot of them are red blood cells, so you can't, but if you took the red blood cells and all the others, it comes to around 37 million new cells per second. So if you're talking about 37 million new cells per second, just do the math. Maybe a year and 2 minutes, 3 months. Yeah. Okay, new skin every 6 weeks. Retina, the back part of your eye that sees, every 48 hours, new rods and cones. Rods are what? That's how we see black and white. Cones are how we see color. That's what those are. Okay. Liver, got a new one every 6 months. New one every 6 months. The lining of your gastrointestinal tract, every 3 days. New. So yeah, this is a dynamic process, man. You weren't born with a body and you're stuck with it. Like, and if you think you got the same body you were born with, I want you to grab some baby pictures and take a look and say, Or how about take a look at yourself last year, 2 years ago? Same? Nah. This is a dynamic thing. Keeps happening. Okay. What would you recommend treat stage 4 breast cancer, ER positive? Same thing. Monia, same thing. Everything. Like I said, lots of soy, lots of flax. Do some cleansing. Clean out your colon. Do a 3-week, 4-week, 5-week juice cleanse if you can. If you're really thin and you can't, go as long as you can. Get some lymphatic work. Get to bed early. Do movement all day long. Start eating only real food, which is food that the earth produces, right? And get lots of soy, natto, miso, tempeh, tofu, like that. Yeah. Flax, chia. Okay. Thoughts on MTHFR gene healing triple positive breast chronically fermenting cells, doing coffee enemas daily. Okay. So methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase is a gene that's really important with what we call a vitamin called folate production, dealing with folate and adding methyl groups and things like that. And so now here's the problem I have. Usually genes that don't work, that are not for the benefit of the individual, usually the individuals aren't really good at reproducing and they don't stay in the gene pool that long. So these things kind of, so my question is, how did this happen? When did it first start happening? I'm just wondering what they're doing with this. How did this all of a sudden become an issue? I mean, isn't that weird? Imagine that. Oh, we just found out. Oh, yeah, we just found out. So no. Anyway, it turns out it is a big deal. It turns out it's a big thing. But so of course, folates and deficiencies in like folate, choline, vitamin B12, B6, riboflavin. Most of those are all the B. Those are the family of B complex. So you just take them. Take a B complex. Or guess what? It turns out that we always go back to the same truth. And what I love about the truth is that it just, no matter what you do to it, no matter how much you hammer it and all that, it can't change it. It's immutable. Anyway, turns out that beans, peas, lentils, you can sprout them. If you're cooking, you can cook them. Okay, you're going to get the things that we're talking about, the B vitamins. Okay, spinach, asparagus, beets, broccoli, corn, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, all the cruciferous vegetables. You're going to get all that stuff, right? Okay, different kinds of fruits and vegetables. Sunflower seeds, other seed butters, pumpkin seed butters. By the way, you guys got to go to Omega Nutrition. It's a company in Canada, and get their pumpkin seed butter. I'm telling you, you got to just get ready for the newest addiction. I'm telling you, pumpkin seed butter from Omega Nutrition in Canada. Yeah, I've been a happy addict for 12 years, 13 years. Yeah. Can chia cause gout? No. It does not. You don't have to take B vitamins, my friend. Eat all the veggies. Turns out if you eat right, if you eat healthy, most of this stuff is a non-issue. Okay, so let's go back here. So what to do if you don't do chemo? Then congratulations. There's so many things you can do. Ozone, vitamin C. You got to do colonics. You got to do cleansing. You got to do lymphatics. You've got to wake up your immune system. You've got to, by maybe using IL-2, using thymosin alpha-1, which is a peptide. There's so many things you can do. You got to get in touch with me. Go to my website, drlodi.com. How is the best way to prepare for a 3-day fast, water fast, keto diet, juicing? You don't really, honestly, a 3-day fast is not, I mean, it's impossible for it to be dangerous, but the hardest part, remember, the hardest part about fasting, there's two difficulties, two major challenges with water fasting. Number one is the mind well, first of all, coming to the conclusion that you're going to do it, because most people resist that. But you finally say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Now, remember, there's a difference between appetite and hunger. Okay? Hunger is a natural, unlearned, non-specific set of physiological responses as a consequence of either a nutrient or energy deficit. And it results in a complex pattern of behavior that results in obtaining food and eating it. And once that nutrient and or energy deficit has been satisfied, then the activities cease. This is hunger. Now, appetite, completely different creature, not natural, not learned, very specific. It includes cravings. And by the way, the hunger is easily satisfied, right? Like you said, as soon as the nutrient and or energy deficit has been satisfied, it stops, right? So it's easily satisfied. The appetite's never satisfied. So it's an abnormal. Appetite is born of the mind. Hunger is born of physiology of the body. So please keep in mind that one of the big, the big couple challenges at the beginning are, one, deciding to do it. Number two is the ripping apart and dissecting and separating hunger and appetite, because we don't know which is which. One easy way to know is that if you know what you want to eat, then it's an appetite. Gotta have a don't. Gotta have a don't. Oh, I'm hungry. All right, that's cool. That's cool. Sounds better. But not if you're saying it every 10 minutes or 3 times a day. And we mistake, by the way, most of us mistake hunger for the gastric irritation and movement of a stomach that's finally empty. And do you ever notice that the later you eat, the hungrier you are in the morning or sooner? Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Later you eat, the earlier in the morning you think you're hungry. So anyway, when the stomach finally is empty and starts to go, okay, starts producing its gastric acid and all that sort of thing, then we say, I'm hungry. Well, here's the thing. When you start to get that movement and all that, right? And I got hunger pains. There's no such thing as hunger pains. If you've been to any countries, I got off the plane back in a long time ago, before Louis Vuitton, before Starbucks, before the world had one monoculture. I got off the plane as a young man, very young man, not even old enough to vote. I got off the plane in Mumbai. It was the beginning of a couple years of my life that are right up there with birth and death, very important parts of life. I saw hunger. And it was not what I see here. It's not what I see here. When I say here, I mean in America. It's not what I see. It's not what I see in the Western world. You know, and when I hear someone say, "Oh, I'm starving," don't ever say that unless you are starving. If you haven't eaten in a few hours, if you haven't eaten in 20 days, maybe 30 days, okay. Anyway, usually it's not a pain. The pain comes later, and the pain comes usually with, loss of albumin and bloating stomachs, and you've got, all this, the ascites you get, and, usually it's a weakness, it's a longing, it's a sadness, it's, there's a whole different things that comes along with hunger. So anyway. So for the 3-day, preparing for 3-day cleanse, the best thing I can say for any kind of fast, the best way to do it is, why don't you make sure that you eat only within a 6-hour window. So stop eating 4 hours before sleep. And then, so let's say you're going to go to bed at 9, you stop eating at 5 p.m. And then you can eat again at 11. That's not bad. 11 to 5. You put your fork down at 5. That's cool. 12 is better. 12 to 5 would be even better. 1 to 5 would be the best. Anyway, whatever. But by doing that, you're going to get your body used to it. And also, another way to prepare for a fast is to start eating food that's real food. Real food is still alive. It's growing, right? It's still growing. It's still producing. It's So you're addicted to, Catherine, you're addicted to Go Raw. Oh, I got to taste those. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, Catherine, I'll taste Go Raw. You taste Omega. Let's see if we can split up our addictions. The link, I don't know. It must be on omeganutrition.com. Is it? I can't. Can I do that? Let's see. Omega Nutrition. By the way, I don't work for this company or have any kind of affiliation. I'm just one of their addicts. There, yeah, that's it. OmegaNutrition.com. Who would have thought? I don't know. Yeah. Okay, you guys, where are we? Let's go back here. Okay, now. Next question. Well, okay, so I hope you got that. Now, next question is, please talk about autism. Why the rate is 1 in 36 compared to 1 in 10,000 30 years ago. Well, when I get my Rumble station, we'll talk about that in some detail. In the meantime, I recommend everybody go to Children's Defense League, which is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s. He's been doing this for years. It's got all the research, published, peer-reviewed research on it, and I think you'll find the answer there. But let me just say that I think you probably know, and I know, and we all be better off if I don't say that right now, because when I get on another kind of platform, we'll do it. Okay. Is quick pasteurization of fats just as bad as high heat roasting? Well, here's the thing. When you're doing something quick, like stir frying or whatever that, I don't know what quick pasteurization means. But anyway, you're heating it up quickly and for a short time. Of course, you're not going to get as many of the reactive lipid oxidation products. You're not going to get as many. So I guess it's not as bad, right? So I guess it would say it's probably not as bad. So let's go to this. Let's see. What is this question? LDN information. Information who? And dosing. Oh, who should use it? Well, LDN, as you know, low dose naltrexone, everybody knows. I would recommend that anybody here who's not taking narcotics for pain, consider it. Okay, so naltrexone, naloxone, whatever it is, we use that in emergency rooms to reverse instantly opiate overdose. So if someone comes in, they're blue, they're not breathing, they can't talk, and all that sort of thing, you give them that to find out, because you can't ask them what they're doing, but you give them that, and if they wake up, then that means they had an opiate overdose. So it quickly blocks. Like we have opiate receptors, which we have, the kappa, mu, and kappa, mu, and delta. And the mu receptors are pretty much the ones that deal with pain. And so naloxone and naltrexone, those are opiate receptor blockers. So they block it. So, but it turns out that that's in high doses, right? And remember, the reason we have opiate receptors, why do we have opiate receptors? Because opiates, we produce something called endorphins. Endorphins is just a contraction of the words of endogenous morphine, right? So that we produce in our bodies, just like we have endocannabinoids. We produce cannabis in a molecular form, and that's why we have endocannabinoid receptors, and we have morphine, we have opiate receptors. But anyway, so the thing about naltrexone in low doses, what it does is, in addition to blocking these receptors, what it does, right? You'd say, well, wait a minute, why would I want to block my mu receptor, which is going to help me with pain? Because actually, it turns out that if you block it, there's another receptor that it blocks. It's a non-opiate receptor called a toll-like receptor 4, TLR4. And these are receptors that are involved in, that are found on macrophages and microglia. What are macrophages and what are microglia? Macrophages, all white blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. And then depending on certain parts, as they start to differentiate, they'll go into different directions. Some turn into, basophils, eosinophils, polymorphonucleosides, and lymphocytes. And then the lymphocytes go to the lymph nodes and become B cells, or they go to the thymus gland, they become T cells. Well, the others become what are called monocytes. I mean, it's just the one. So whereas the the neutrophil that we talk about, like whenever someone's getting chemotherapy, we don't want their neutrophils to go too low. Why? What are neutrophils? Neutrophils are the guys that are on, guys. They are the ones that are on the scene to do what? To kill and eat and grab and swallow bacteria. So they prevent sepsis. Okay, so that's what happens with one of the things that high dose chemo does, is it lowers the neutrophils so low that you just brushing your teeth or having a constipated bowel movement or banging into something, anything that could probably dislodge bacteria into your blood, you can't protect yourself from it. Okay, so anyway, so those are neutrophils, but they have many. The nucleus has got all these kind of areas, so they call it polynuclear morphocytes, polymononuclear lymphocytes. Okay, neutrophils. Okay, so anyway, but the monocyte just one. So monocytes go through the blood, they exit the blood, and they go to different organs. So, and where they turn into tissue macrophages, and tissue macrophages are little white blood cells that actually eat foreign matter, including bacteria, funguses, whatever the heck, viruses or whatever we're talking about there, exosomes, and also chronically fermenting cells or anything like that, anything that's no longer part of the body, right? And so if it goes into the liver, it's called Kupffer cells, right? And they have different kinds of names. Well, if it's in the brain and in the nervous system, they're called microglial cells. So anyway, they carry with them all these inflammatory chemicals, inflammatory cytokines, right? So what happens is, because the naltrexone low dose will block them, they will not be able to release all of their inflammatory cytokines in the brain and nervous tissue. So that's important too. If you have a peripheral neuropathy, right, from drugs, bad drugs that they gave you, but also one other thing I want to say is that what we have noticed is that that many people who have been given the the PFIZERs and the MODERNA injections, what we're finding is that there are a lot of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system problems as a result of them. And probably the main reason is the activated microglial cells. And these microglial cells pretty much produce a brain-wide inflammatory response, which can result in things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and other kinds of dementias, right? Which is why a lot of these people that have had these injections are kind of like not the same. Their brain chemistry is no longer the same. Anyway, this would help with that a lot. This helps with that a lot. Okay. Because when these microglial cells get activated, they produce inflammatory and excitatory factors. It messes up your sleep. It messes up your cognition. Messes up your everything. Gives you a general feeling of being what they call it, malaise. So anyway, this whole inflammatory cascade is pretty much lowered. Why is that important? Because remember, the underlying physiology of these chronically degenerative conditions is inflammation. Now, it's an interesting. That is true of the low-dose naltrexone, but there's also something else. There's also something called the opioid rebound. So when you block them, when you're blocking them, it causes them to like rebound, and in that rebound, they actually play a critical role in enhancing the immune system. So that's another thing. So the LDN, I would absolutely recommend you guys. Recommend. Okay, it looks like a good question. I'll answer that in a moment. Ernesto, I will answer in a moment. Okay, so anyway, I can't answer them all. Here's just diagnosed with poorly differentiated carcinoma. How can I heal myself? Okay. First of all, understand that we don't do anything. We don't heal ourselves. Healing happens when we get out of the way and allow our body to have all of its biological needs met, our mind to have its psychological needs met, and our spirit to have its spiritual needs met. And we do that through a whole way of changing our life. We change our life, and that will happen. It will happen to us. Healing will happen. And one of the things I can recommend is on my website, drlodi.com. There's the Stop Making Cancer video series, which needs to be improved. I'm going to add things to it as soon as I get a moment. One is that beautiful question you asked me earlier about the supplement list. I don't know if it's on there, but yeah, but that's what you got to do. It's poorly differentiated just means that it's well along its way. That's all it means. It's just lost its differentiation. But it's time to cleanse. Get ready. Start on a 3-week, 4-week, 8-week juice cleanse. Fresh vegetable juices, celery, cucumber, kale, spinach, lemon, and apple is the fundamental primaries. You can add to it, play with it, do whatever you want. But those are the fundamentals. And make sure you love it. You taste good. You're going to want more. So do whatever you have to do to it to make it taste good. Don't add sugar or anything like that. Add a little extra apple if you have to. Okay. All right. But you got to do that. That's how we do this thing. That's how we become. Okay. Now, okay, so here's by Paulo Paulo Face. What are the benefits of bloodletting therapy? In which case is recommended? Bloodletting therapy is basically I mean, the only time medically it's done with is if someone has hemosiderosis or any other kind of iron storage condition. Because when you let out blood, you're getting rid of the iron. And the problem with iron is iron has two conditions, a ferric and a ferrous. When it's in its ferric, it can cause problems when it's reduced to the ferrous and cause all kinds of free radicals. And that's how it causes damage. So someone with hemosiderosis who's collecting lots of iron, excess iron, is causing this free radical damage in their liver, and they're causing resulting in cirrhosis and things like that. So bloodletting, but it happens at even a much more profound macroscopic way of damage from the iron, but it's happening at a mild level all the time and everywhere. And then and it affects your overall health, which is why, interestingly enough, that women, and again, I'm talking about the ones with ovaries and uteruses. Those women, if you've had your ovaries removed, uterus removed, then you're going to lose that benefit of having a menstrual cycle. But by having a menstrual cycle, it's very interesting. So that women, their risk of all-cause mortality is much lower, like 10 years lower than men, until they go through menopause. And then once they go through menopause, then within a couple of years, they're now at the same risk as men. But they found out that men who donate their blood on a regular basis are equal. So it turns out it's in the blood. So what you can do is, let's say you have blood that you can't donate, like you have hepatitis B or C and you can't donate it. That's it. Just go and let them take a couple hundred cc's and throw it away about every once a month. That's all. So it's good for everybody in lots of ways. And if you're a woman, don't cry over your periods unless they're hurting you a lot and they're causing problems. I respect that. I respect that. You know that. You all know that. I don't have to defend myself. I respect that. But I'm just saying, a lot of women, if you're having periods that are not causing you disturbances, but they're just like, it's a bloody mess. Well, it is a bloody mess, but guess what? It's really helping you. Yeah. And remember, the divine intelligence wants women to be around a little longer than men, because women take care of people. Women are caring and loving and supportive. And they make wonderful friends, unless you're another woman, right? Two women. You ladies got to get over that and just remember, don't look at each other as competitors, just look at each other as part of an amazing sex called women. Women are amazing. And in fact, when a man has the qualities of a woman, I don't mean excessive qualities. I'm just talking about gentleness, compassion, nurturing, then that man is referred to as a gentleman, a gentleman. And that's pretty cool. Okay, I got to answer this question. After a lumpectomy, margins are all clear. Should I do chemo or hormone drugs? No. And let me repeat that. No. Because why? If your margin mature cancer cells, and mature cancer cells are the only thing that, the mature cancer cells, now that they're gone, means there's no tumor. But what are left are these microscopic cancer stem cells that do cause metastasis. In other words, they can set up camp elsewhere in the body. And neither chemo nor radiation nor hormonal therapies, none of them eliminate cancer stem cells. What does is ivermectin, the benzimidazoles, curcumin, quercetin, vitamin C, doxycycline. Yeah. Yeah. And get healthy, clean your colon, do lymphatic work, get some sleep early, move around all day, meditate. And for those of you who don't know, that meditation is not praying to another God, but it's basically learning to shut up. It's learning to turn the mind off. It's mindlessness. If you can get mindlessness, then your natural killer cells go through the roof. Okay. As long as you're thinking, you've got your foot on the brakes of the immune system. All right. Now, let me see. Where was that one nice question I had a little while ago? Yeah. Hey, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for bringing this up. Somebody, I don't ever contact anybody. So twice now, please, everybody listen to this. Twice now, someone is saying that I are taking my whatever. I don't know how they do it, my credential, my whatever, and they're saying their Instagram or Facebook. I do not contact people at all. I do not solicit anything. I don't contact. I don't say anything. I will not contact you. I will respond to your question when I get around to it, but I never. So please, thank you so much, Brenda. No, it's on Facebook too. So I got to tell my team to, if you could send that to me so I can find out. I mean, Brenda, I my gosh. Yeah, no, I don't. I don't. Why do people do that? What are they doing, man? Anyway, I don't contact anybody on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or anything. I just answer your questions if I get around to it. Okay. What's a good way to treat chronic constipation? Drink a ton of water, a lot of water, and then stop eating. Stop eating for at least 2-3 days. Maybe just drink regular juice. Another thing is you get some sodium ascorbate, some vitamin C, and put an extra like 2 teaspoons in a glass of water and drink that, and you'll help start clearing out. That's really good. Same thing with magnesium. You can eat a lot of magnesium and get rid of it that way, drinking lots of juices. And then once you've had some good bowel movements, then you can get, there's an herb I like online. It's called Super Cleanse. It's from Harmony. Super Cleanse from Harmony. You can take anywhere from 1 up to 5, 8, depending what you need at the beginning, before sleep. And drink lots of water, and then you'll start. But eating healthy food, real food, will help that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, I promise you, we'll get rid of that. Now, if you're got chronic constipation and you're taking opiates, then we got to get off the opiates, because opiates will do that. You know, and one way to get off of opiates is to get some really high doses of 4-to-1 THC to CBD, and do it rectally, because the last 2/3 of the rectum drain into the main vein and not to the liver, and you don't get high. And believe me, 500 milligrams twice a day rectally, if you're dealing with pain or chronically fermenting cells. Even Cheech and Chong wouldn't want that much. No, it's like way too much. Okay, so doing it rectally is going to protect you from going to get rid of your pain. Yeah, you might have to do it 3 times a day until you get rid of the pain. Got to get rid of the pain, because it's hard to do anything when you got chronic pain, when you got chronic nausea, when you got chronic itching. These are horrible, horrible things. Okay, regarding fasting, stumbling block is heart, fluttering, palpitations, sleeplessness. Well, I would supervise you if you get in touch with me, but basically, first of all, if you've got any problem with your heart, like you're suggesting, you need to go to a biological dentist first before you do anything else. Go to a biological dentist. Make sure that you remember last week I talked about Dr. Emma Abramian. Well, she, if you're living in LA, Glendale, or San Diego, drive up. I mean, anywhere near there, go to her. If not, you got to find one that is really certified, all that. And they'll do what's called a cone beam, and they'll do a cavitat, and they'll be able to see. But if you get heart problems and you had your wisdom teeth extracted in the past, most extractions are failed. They leave fragments of bones. They don't get the periodontal ligament, and you wind up getting pus and all kinds of stuff in the bone called cavitations, and you don't know it. You don't know it. You don't have swollen gums. You don't have painful gums and all that. And until you get that cleaned out, you won't do it. So that's what I'm thinking about if you're having heart problems. But other than that, then for you, if that's really hard, then just do a green juice cleanse. Drink tons of green juice and clean yourself out really nicely. Do 8 weeks of green juice. You'll be clean. Okay, so let me get back to you guys here. Oh, wait, what was that one I wanted to answer? I meant to answer it. I am underweight. I can't get... I have a question about the heavy dewormer protocol, what you gave us last week. How about what symptoms will we have during 3 months? So you won't take it for 3 months straight. If you're going to take the niclosamide, Alinea, ivermectin, fenbendazole or mebendazole, if you're taking any of all 4 of those, praziquantel, right? You're going to take them really at 2-3 times a day for 3 weeks and then off for 1 week. 3 weeks and then off for 1 week. What might you feel? If you feel nauseous or something like that, you need to slow down a little bit, okay? Just then do it 2 weeks in 1 week, 2 weeks in 1 week. But you got to hit them heavy when you hit them, because otherwise you're just disturbing them. They migrate to other organs, or change the ones you have. You know, maybe but you always got to have ivermectin and a benzimidazole, like either fenbendazole or mebendazole, and then either niclosamide or Alinea or praziquantel. And then and then there's the antiprotozoals. So. Is it okay to take prebiotics during a detox? Sure. I'm not sure what you mean by detox, but prebiotics are good. Yeah. Yeah. One thing about the 3-day fast, remember we were talking about a 3-day water fast, preparing for it. I always feel kind of sad when I hear someone's going to do a 3-day water fast. You know why? Because the hardest part is the first 3 days. Day 4, you wake up and, hey, I'm cool. And you don't have to eat. If you can get the 3, do 4 or 5. And you'll say, hey, wow. It will break your romance with food. Believe me, we have a romance with food. Believe me. And you don't know it as long as you're in the middle of it. You got to step back from eating and say, hey, I really don't need to eat. All I need is this kind of stuff here. You know? You know what's bizarre about Ponce de Leon? You all know Ponce de Leon, right? I think I have my history right. I'm not sure. But wasn't he the guy that was sent by the Queen of Spain to find the Fountain of Youth? And he wound up in Florida. Do I have that memory right? Is that true? Who knows if what we learned is true? Anyway, he was looking for the Fountain of Youth. And guess what? He had it all the time. It's called water. Water is the fountain of youth. Fasting, water fasting is the fountain of youth. Yeah. Questions. Okay. Let's see. Let's get down to the. Okay, here. I know that eating raw live food is the ideal, but ever since my liver resection surgery, then afterwards my hernia repair, I felt like I have very tight turns in my intestines, and I've had altered digestion elimination since. I now weigh only 109 pounds. I'm 5'5". My stomach. My hernia repaired and addressed adhesions of liver to posterior wall and other adhesions of intestines, but there is more of that. I've been told by surgeons and my oncologist and my acupuncturist and my Ayurvedic healer that I must eat soft, easily digestible, eliminated foods. When I try to eat raw, I get very distended, even backed up. Okay, all right. And your CA19 marker has been going up. Okay, so here's what you got to do. Now listen, this is a simple, obvious, should be obvious truth, and that is, it is never wrong to do the right thing. We were designed for food that the earth produces. That's what we were designed for. That's what we are. Now, it turns out that when we eat food that has been denatured with heat, it no longer has the enzymes, and now we have to produce all the excess enzymes. So we overwork our pancreases, and we overwork the cells lining our GI tract, and we overwork our livers, etc. So actually, it's easier on the gut than by eating the uncooked food. However, I get what you're saying. You've had these surgeries, you've had your anatomy distorted, and all that sort of thing. So, and I'm not sure what your anatomy is, but what I would do is a couple things. Number one, if you still have a stomach, then take hydrochloric acid before you eat. You can get betaine, hydrochloric acid, in any health food store or online. 1, 2, 3 capsules, whatever. 10, 15 minutes before you eat. And take blended soups. Blend up, like I was saying, I think last week. You can take spinach and avocado and blend it up and put a little bit of lemon in it. And you can take, there's all kinds of delicious blended soups where they're still uncooked and they're delicious. And you can even, Now, after you're done eating, and don't eat a lot, eat a little bit at first, then take a few digestive enzymes. I use a company called Transformation because they do a lot of research, and they have transformation, and they have different kinds of enzymes with different ratios of enzymes. And one I use is Digestzyme, Z-Y-M-E, Digestzyme, because it has a lot of cellulase, which breaks down cellulose, and it's good for people on a plant diet. So if you take a handful of the digestive enzymes, and you took the acid first, and you drink a little bit of the liquid blended soups, then you'll be able to tolerate it, and you'll get all of the stuff that God and nature intended for you. Okay, and I mean, this will help. I understand this will help you. I mean, I'm telling you, it will help you. Okay, so here a question here. This is a very good question too. BRCA2 mutation runs in my family. Just found masses in my dad's pancreas. Trying to get him on a path of healthy living and not sure what else to do with him. Also, if my sister and I are positive for the mutation, do you recommend preventive total hysterectomy and mastectomy? And you answered the question by telling me that your father has masses on his pancreas. Because if you have the BRCA mutations, then your risk of breast, ovarian, and uterine, and colon and pancreas. So you can't have them all removed. So Angelina Jolie, still has high risk of the other ones, if it is in fact that you have both. Now, and remember, if what a BRCA means is that it's one of the 7 major enzymes that are necessary in the double-stranded DNA repair. So when cells are going through meiosis and changing or dividing, and they have double-stranded breaks, part of the way it's cleaned up is with these genes that have been called BRCA, which stands for breast-related cancer. It's ridiculous. So but you get 2 chromosomes. You get one from each parent. So unless you get the second chromosome modified or down-regulated because you're living an unhealthy lifestyle, if this one is strong, if you're living a really healthy lifestyle, then that won't be a problem. Okay, so that's what you need to do. So and I remember, very few, 5% or less of all the breast cancers are BRCA and ovarian cancers are BRCA. That means all the rest are not. So what do you need to do if you have the BRCA? You need to live healthy, really healthy. No fooling around. It's showtime. Do it. Eat what God made you. Made for. Eat God's food, not man's food. What do you need to do if you don't have the BRCA? Eat healthy. Live healthy. Turns out the same for all of us. Okay, but no. What I'm saying is that if you get the breast and the ovaries removed and your uterus removed, you still have a pancreas, and you're still going to have to do what to protect them. You're going to have to do the same thing. So there's no sense in getting mutilated, and getting mutilated is always a problem, right? Ask those poor kids when they get older. Is there a less invasive way to treat atrial fibrillation than cardiac ablation? You go to your biological dentist and you find out what's going on around your wisdom teeth, because that's on the meridian of the heart. Yeah, and I don't know why, but atrial fibrillation is a lot of the things that medical conditions that predispose to it are, of course, aortic stenosis, hypertension, ischemia, meaning having blocked up arteries, pulmonary problems, like if you're a heavy smoker, if you got bronchitis, if you had a pulmonary embolism. And there are things that can predispose to it, but I would say, and I'm just, this is something that will never be tested. We'll never be able to find the data. We'll never be able to find the data because no one's going to look for the data. Okay. But I would say probably 60% of AFib, atrial fibrillation, and other kinds of arrhythmias and cardiac problems are related to teeth, dental issues. I know, I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that from some what I know. So anyway, don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. And I know a lot of you don't believe me. Hey, are we still on Facebook? Yeah, still running. Okay, good. Couldn't tell. And we're still running on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Do you accept insurance? Well, sadly, it's not whether or not me or any other doctor who practices real medicine accepts insurance. They won't pay for what we do. They won't pay for what we do. So we have to care out of the invoice from what you do with us or anybody else, take it to your insurance company and try to get some sort of reimbursement. But they won't pay it. But some places are now starting to pay for vitamin C, which because it's come out of it's vitamin C has sort of come out of the alternative closet, because there has been so many clinical trials, so many studies. And so if your doctor ever says to you that there's no studies on it, just say, look, man, look at that was the answer you gave 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's time for you to start doing some work, okay, and read about it, because it's very, very important. But anyway, so they'll pay for that sometimes. But anyway, the other thing too is for example, if you sign up for working with a certain insurance company, they're going to tell you what you're going to do. You no longer have the freedom to do what you want. You got to do what they say. So it doesn't work in anybody's interest for us to do it. So sorry, no, but you can take a lot of it and get reimbursed. Hey, guys. Okay, here's a real question to Louise. Dr. Lodi, I value your thoughts. Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. Do you have a solution present or in the future and means of slowing it down? Let me just tell you, Louise, that Dr. Simon Yu, YU, board certified internal medicine doctor in St. Louis, Missouri, has had multiple people with ALS, MS, other things like that. He does the acupuncture meridian test. He actually finds out what's going on. A lot of times it is dental. It has gone up into the brain, dental, hidden capitations, hidden things like that. If you've had root canals, if you failed extractions and things like that, parasites, there's all kinds of stuff. Parasites can get in the brain, especially the protozoas. They like fat. They go up in the brain, all that. So again, yes, it's what we call ALS, what we call Lou Gehrig's disease, what we call multiple sclerosis, what we call these things are metabolic adaptive processes that have multiple causes, just like the chronically fermenting cells. So it's not that it's a thing that exists. It's a pathway of adaptation that has been arrived at for multiple reasons. Uncover every stone. Look, you got to find out, is it dental, hidden dental? Is it parasites and all that? And just take care of all that stuff. You don't necessarily have to go see Dr. Simon Yu, but he would be great if you did, because he could tell you exactly what's going on. He's helped people he had a guy that was in a wheelchair already had a tracheotomy, ALS, already had a tracheotomy, is back dancing. So you don't see that with ALS. All right, you guys, listen, fantastic today. Thank you so much. Sawadee kap, and namaste, namaskar, and aloha, and remember, we are the elephant. We are the elephant, and we don't want to go uphill. We don't want to go uphill. Anyway, guys, I forgot how to turn this on. How the heck do you turn this on? Anyway, let me do this here. This here. Now this, I forgot. Oh, edit, event, leave. Isn't there a way to leave?